Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm Elle, and for today's video, I'm going to be doing a book review for you guys on Tiffany Jackson's Grown, which is right here. So I'm going to be reviewing that book for you guys today. But before we get into it, if you have not seen my Black author book recommendation video, I would highly suggest you go and watch that video. It's really great. I list some awesome books for you guys and some really amazing authors. So definitely go watch that video if you haven't seen it already. Also, it's been brought to my attention that the audio in some of my videos are not syncing. They're like, the audio is like a second off from the actual video. I don't know why that's happening. I'm assuming it's because I edit my videos on my phone using like a variety of different apps. And I've tried to fix it and it's just not working. That's why there wasn't a video on Tuesday, because I was trying to figure out what was going on and I just couldn't get it. So that being said, I will be getting some new video editing software, like official video editing software on my laptop, hopefully by the end of the month, so that can kind of solve that problem. I'm really sorry if it's not synced up wherever you're watching it, because I noticed like when I had it hooked up to a Bluetooth, the audio was fine. So it's being very weird. So again, I'm sorry about that. I will be getting a new software at the end of the month to try and fix that, and hopefully that problem just goes away. But yeah, oh, also don't forget to stick around to the very end of the video, because I'll be giving you guys another Black history fact. So yeah, with all that being said in this super long intro, let's get into it.
Talk to me nice, talk to me honestly, look in my eyes.
I have my notes on my laptop, so if I'm looking down, as usual, that's why I should probably bring the book down so you guys can see it. So yeah, this is Grown by Tiffany Jackson. It has the most beautiful cover. This was one of my favorite covers of 2020. I absolutely adore it. So yeah, this is the book that we're going to be reviewing today. I'm going to put it right here. I actually don't know if you guys can see it anymore, but it's there. Just so you know, I have my notes on my computer as always, so if I'm looking down, that is what I'm looking at. And yeah, let's get into it. So Grown is about our main character, Enchanted, who's a 17-year-old aspiring singer, and she's from a family who's currently really struggling with money and like keeping up with bills right now, because they have just underwent a huge move to the suburbs. So money is really tight for them. She's not able to take the singing lessons that she wants, but she decides to enter this contest that she doesn't win, which is not a spoiler. You find that out within the first chapter, so don't come at me. She doesn't win the contest, but she gets noticed by this huge R&B singer, Corey Fields, and he takes an interest into her very quickly, and everything just kind of happens very fast. She's kind of just enthralled by his very lavish lifestyle, and he gets her to go on tour with him, and yeah, things just kind of go for a swift downward spiral from there. One morning when Enchanted wakes up in Corey's hotel room, with blood all over her, and Corey Fields is dead. She has no memory of what happened the night before, and she is now the #1 suspect in Corey Fields' murder. So yeah, that's the synopsis of it. There's so much more that happens in this book. It's crazy. It's absolutely insane. But yeah, that's the synopsis of it. So my general feelings, first of all, I'll say I gave this book a 4 stars for a number of reasons. But before we get into that, I want to say that I absolutely love Tiffany Jackson's writing. I adore her writing. The last book I read for her was Monday's Not Coming. She has this ability of writing stories that really just grab you and trap you in, and you want to know what's going to happen. Like, I finished Grown. Probably it took me like maybe a day and a half, because I was so engrossed in the book and I wanted to know what was going to happen to Enchanted. I was very invested in her story. So Tiffany Jackson's writing, just her writing alone is fabulous. Like, just 5-star writing, really well done. The 4-star comes in, I'll tell you why later. There's a lot of trigger warnings for the book, so hold on, I think they're actually in the front. They're in the front of the book, so hold on, I'll tell you. Content warning. So there's mentions of sexual abuse, rape, assault, child abuse, kidnapping, and addiction to opioids. So just be cognizant of that before you pick the book up. If that's an issue for you, just know that those are key essentials of the book. So be wary of that. And it gives a lot of R.Kelly vibes. So from the synopsis, you don't get majority of what is going on in the book, which I actually really like. I hate when a synopsis pretty much lays out the entire story and you're just kind of reading it to fill in those small blanks. There was a lot left out in the synopsis. So when I went in there and I'm reading it and I'm like, this all sounds kind of familiar, like this story, I think I've seen this story somewhere before. It's very strong R. Kelly vibes. Now mind you, Tiffany Jackson does write at the end that the book is not based off of R. Kelly at all. You still pick up those vibes. There are some scenes where I was like, oh well, we've all heard of that issue before. So definitely be conscious of that as well. Going into it, I'm glad I didn't know, because I liked the kind of thriller mystery aspect of it, like what's gonna happen next. But if that is a huge trigger for you, then it is important to know that there are huge R. Kelly vibes in the book. And I don't care who says that that's a spoiler, it's there. So know that it's there, because it would suck for somebody to jump into the book not expecting it, and that's what they get. So just know that. The book itself is paced really quickly, and that's my favorite type of pacing for a book. There's a lot that happens in a very short book, but a pretty generous timeline. I think it takes place over the span of about 8 to 9 months, almost a year, I would say. Like it's a generous timeline, but it's moving, and I really like that. There's a lot of foreshadowing, so you need to pay attention, because it's the little details that are going to come back and be like, oh, that's what happened there. So definitely pay attention to the little details as well. As I said earlier, you get invested in the characters. Once you start reading this book, you are going to want to know what happens at the end. So, and there's a lot of, how do I say it? There's a lot of little things that went wrong where, like, damn, if her parents had just, then this wouldn't have happened. And it's just, you're reading it and you're like, oh man, if you had just done that differently. And I kind of like it's the outside looking in perspective. And I like that Tiffany Jackson really put her character in the moment there. Like, there was not a lot of forethought that went in to a lot of her actions, because you have to keep in mind that, you know, you're dealing with a 17-year-old girl and you're really following her train of thought there. And I kind of had to take myself out of my 24-year-old body and put myself back into my 17-year-old body and be like, would I do that? Probably still not, but I understand how she got to those decisions. But yeah, so that's the general idea of the book. You get exposed to a real dark side of celebrity lifestyles, and how fast-paced and how secretive a lot of the behind-the-scenes actions are, and I really enjoyed that aspect of it. I think the story itself was done very well. I gave it 4 stars and not 5 stars because there were some little details in there that I was like, well, why didn't anybody say something? Like, why? There were just some things where I was just like, why? But other than that, like, it wasn't enough for me to be like, no, this book is not worth my time. I thought it was really well done. The language that is used, the writing style that is used is beautiful. That's just another ode to Tiffany Jackson's writing. She's just an amazing writer in general. I don't want to give too much of it away because I don't want it to be spoilery. I definitely wasn't expecting the twist at the end as to who actually killed Corey Fields. I think we can all, oh, that might be a spoiler. I'll say it. I wasn't expecting the ending to be what the ending was, so that was really awesome. I definitely love having the idea that, what's it called? I love having the twist at the end, which is really cool. And that's all I'm gonna say that's non-spoilery. I want to dive a little bit into deeper aspects of the book. So if you don't want to hear any other spoilers, or if you don't want to hear spoilers at all, I should say, because I haven't given you any. If you don't want to hear any spoilers, I would click out of the video now. If you've read the book already and you're just here for thoughts and you want to have a dialogue, keep on watching. But yeah, so I'm going to get into some spoilery parts now. So there's an aspect of the book, which is one of the reasons that I ended up giving it, I don't know why they're barking. one of the reasons why I ended up giving it 4 stars instead of 5. First of all, Enchanted ends up going on tour with this man by herself at 17 years old, no parental supervision. They signed this very lengthy contract, pretty much signing their daughter away and giving Corey Fields' assistant, his female assistant, guardianship over Enchanted while she's away. I'm obviously not a celebrity. I'm not a singer. I don't know if this is common practice or how this goes. But to me, that just seems a little bit odd. And I completely understand, obviously, like the story that is depicted here is that Enchanted's parents could not take off work to go with her, but her dad was laid off at the time. So technically, he could have gone with her. And that would have been, you know, I think a more reasonable thing to wrap my head around. And I know some people are gonna be like, well, she was turning 18 in a couple months. Okay, great. You're still a kid. And again, this is probably me having to take myself out of my 24-year-old body, but like knowing my parents, especially I'm gonna say knowing my Black parents, there is not a chance under the sun that I could go to my mom and say, hey mom, I'm going on tour with this really famous R&B singer and his assistant is going to watch me and I'm going to do my schoolwork. Not my mother. It was not happening with my mother. It wasn't going to happen. And much less my father. I think it would have been a little bit different had the R&B artist been a female, because you could have actually taken it in a whole different direction of, you know, the wildlife of female R&B singers or just female celebrities in general. I think that would have been a little bit more believable. But the idea of letting her go off with this male R&B singer to pursue this dream of singing by herself at 17, just kind of like, I don't know. If she was already 18 or 19 and was like, well, I don't need parental signatures or anything like that, I'm just gonna sneak out and go, even that would have been more believable to me. But for her parents to actually sign her away like that, I was like, I already see how that's gonna turn out. No, I wouldn't. That part for me was a little bit hard to swallow. And then also the idea that, you know, there are some points where communication gets cut off with her mom. She stops answering her phone, and then there's a part where, you know, Corey takes her phone so she can't answer it anymore. And I know we find out later that, like, her dad tried to go and find her. Her parents tried to send the police to go and look after her. And then we can also have a whole deeper discussion about how, you know, when it comes to Black females, we're often overlooked by authority when we're asking for help. You know, you see that all the time in hospitals when we go and we're trying to get medical help and we're kind of ignored. So we can have a whole different discussion about that. But again, I mean, and we can also, I guess, talk about, you know, they didn't have the money to just hop on a plane and go and get their child. But I feel like she was left alone to sort it all out. And I guess that's the story that was being depicted. She was alone and sorting everything that she was going through out by herself. She was thrown into this lifestyle with very little guidance and very little support. And she drowned, essentially. That it shouldn't have happened the way that it happened, and it was very sad. But I can't get past the fact that, you know, yes, they went looking for her, but they went looking for her so late. It was so late. Even if they had to drive, to go and get her, physically show up at the door and get her and be like, you know, show me my child type of thing. No one went. So that kind of hurt my heart. That kind of broke my heart a little bit for her. I wish that somebody was more in her corner. I also like the aspect that we got to kind of see a lot of what happened when she did come home, and, you know, when she was able to break away from the very, very abusive, traumatic relationship that she had with Corey Fields that was very, very manipulative. We got to see the aftermath of how she kind of had to figure out how to fit back into her life at home and in school and in, like, her after school activities. There's this I can't remember what it's called, but it's like this group for Black teenagers. I can't remember what it's called, but it's a group for Black teenagers that are about to graduate, or are in high school and about to graduate from high school or something like that, and she has to kind of like figure out how to navigate that group again, because, you know, it gets out what happened with her and Corey Fields, but the media twists it because Corey is this huge famous R&B singer that so many people love. So a lot of the times Enchanted is painted as the villain, and it really makes you sit back for a second and really makes you examine victim blaming, because when you really look at it for what it is, you had a 17-year-old girl at the mercy of, I think he wasn't 30 yet. She was at the mercy of a guy who was significantly older than her, should have known better, and somehow went through a horrific experience, and somehow she was the villain. And I was like, whoa, like that, it makes you think about victim blaming and how dangerous and hurtful and harmful that actually is. No matter who the person is, no matter who the famous person is, even if they're not famous, who the person that, you know, you think is one way and you love them so much, when it comes out that they've committed this horrendous act, to immediately go and blame what is essentially a child, that was a tough pill to swallow, but it's also reality. So I really liked that aspect of it was put in the book as well. I liked seeing the family relationship that Enchanted had, and that, you know, it's not all black and white when she came home. It wasn't, she had the support of her mom when she came home. It was hard for her dad to kind of deal with her, because that's an awkward situation. You can't really have a father-daughter talk about sexual assault and physical assault. At least I wouldn't know how to even begin to approach that topic with my dad. So watching that kind of awkwardness, and then kind of like reach the climax and everything, they are able to work through it. That was really nice. Watching her sibling relationships kind of break down, because she's got a younger sister who's not that much younger than her. Enchanted 17, I believe her sister is 15. Her sister is 15, and she's also taking a lot of the flack for what happened to Enchanted at school, because, you know, people are saying, well, why? What I was kind of thinking, why was she even allowed to go in the first place? What if she's crying wolf? Corey Fields is this great god that we should all love, blah, 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 blah. And, you know, her little sister is kind of left in the shadows, trying to also have to figure out how to deal with this, and very conflicted with how she should act towards her sister. And I think that that's such an honest perspective, because while victim blaming is disgusting and horrendously wrong, it's also something that a lot of people use as a fallback, especially, you know, when the actions that took place indirectly involve or affect other people. It's easy to lash out that way. So I really liked the aspect of, you know, the whole familial relationships and the friends dynamic that she had to go through. There's a whole other issue with the friends dynamic that just explodes, but I won't give you that. Just read it and you'll get to see that part, because that blew me away. That was an aspect of the book I was not expecting at all. And if you've read it, if you know, you know, I was not prepared for the best friend issues that we had. So yeah, it was just all in all a really amazing book. I thoroughly enjoyed my time reading it. It broke my heart in so many different places. There were parts of the book, and this does not happen to me very often because I have a very strong stomach when it comes to most things, but there were parts of this book where I was reading it and I was like, oh, like I had to kind of put it aside for a couple seconds and then keep going, because there are just some it's very vivid writing. You can picture every single thing that is going on, and that works out in favor for a lot of books, but in this one it's kind of like, I really didn't need that image in my head at all, but you have it. So yeah, take that with a grain of salt. Definitely be aware of the trigger warnings, because they're so important. It's very much so a key premise of the book, so just be wary of that. But overall, if you can, I would highly suggest reading Grown. It was one of my favorite books of last year, and I'm really happy that I was able to have the experience reading this book that I had, and I'm happy to have my own copy of it. And again, the cover of it is just beautiful. Like, why would you not pick up this book? It's gorgeous. So definitely pick it up if you haven't already. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the review. So stick around if you would like to hear another fact on Black history. So if you're still here, you are an MVP, and I'm now going to share with you a fact on Black history. Today's fact is actually really, really tragic, and it's about Emmett Till, who's a 14-year-old Black boy who was brutally beaten and lynched in Mississippi in 1955 for offending a white woman. Now, the fact that I want to share with you guys is a fact that I think is it should be known by now that a lot more has been dug up about the Emmett Till case, but it's the fact that Emmett Till had a lisp, and while talking to and offending the white woman, something that he said, apparently it came out and it sounded like he was whistling at her. Now, this is something that quite literally breaks my heart, because I don't know if you guys can tell or if it comes through in any of my videos, but I also have a slight lisp. And the idea that this little boy, this little Black boy, endured what he did because he was talking to a white woman blows my mind. And the fact that, you know, it was perceived as a whistle when it could have very well just been the lisp, also blows my mind, because like I said, I have a slight lisp, but I could never in a million years see that being blown so far out of proportion. Some other facts about the case is that Emmett was actually visiting family in Mississippi. He didn't, I can't remember where he lived originally, but he was visiting his cousins, and he was at home, or sorry, well, he was at his cousin's house the night that the white, I think it was about 4 or 5 white men, broke into his uncle's house, took him out of his bed in the middle of the night, and brutally beat him and lynched him to the point where he was almost unrecognizable. So up until this point, I've been trying to share relatively positive facts about Black history, big movements and stuff that pushed us in the right direction, but we can't glaze over the fact that there are so many tragedies and heartaches and horrendous aspects of Black history as well, and Emmett Till's case is one of them. So yeah, that is my fact for today. I would highly encourage you to look more into the Emmett Till case if you can, and just educate yourselves further on that. So yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!